Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored with Steve Taplin. Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored, where tech leaders drop the filter and just tell it like it is. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, serial tech entrepreneur. I have 30 companies under my belt. 20 of those didn't work out so good, but 10 of them were big successes. And I turned that roller coaster of a ride into my book, Fail Hard, Win Big. The main lesson I try to use through my book is that failure needs to be used as a superpower. It's not something you should be embarrassed about. It's not something you should sulk about. You're allowed 24 hours to sulk after any failure, whether it's a project, a company, but then you got to look at what you learned from that and apply that moving forward. Keys to success for all of my companies has been building custom software as internal operating systems to create unique client experiences, to raise enterprise value. Now I'm the CEO of Sonatify Technology. We are a nearshore software engineering firm helping existing companies expand their engineering teams. And today I am joined by Pierre-Loïc Assayag. Pierre has been a veteran of the internet economy, is CEO and co-founder of Traackr. Pierre, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Steve.
You bet. Pierre, if you would, walk our listeners through the journey of your career.
For sure. I'll try to keep this short. I'm French, as you might hear from my accent. Though I grew up in France, I never worked there. I started in big corporations, Procter and Gamble, Peugeot, Citroën, for a while out of London, Spain, and then brought me to the US in marketing, and then sort of fell into technology by accident fairly early in my career. Built out all kinds of systems on behalf of these companies, then moved to the startup world when I got to the US that I found a lot more fun, and joined these startups earlier and earlier in the stage of development up until I ran into David, my co-founder at Traackr, and we just decided to take this idea onto and make it a business. We started at the worst time possible, which was summer of 2008. And if you're old enough to recall, it was not the best time to start a business when it came to fundraising. Like we were just in the middle of the financial crisis.
Yes, the financial crisis, the real estate crisis.
But as it turned out, it really helped us just focus on just getting to the customer value and getting to an MVP as quickly as we could. And we built out the whole sector of what we call today creator marketing, influencer marketing as a result of this. Like it was just us just figuring out key value points that brands and agencies would be willing to pay us money that we needed at the time for. And we really grew with that category, with that industry. If you were to think of a red thread for me in my career, it's been building out new industries and new categories. It's been a passion of mine all the way back from school to the projects that these large employers just gave me. And I was lucky enough to work on the first electric cars. And Peugeot sent me to the US to try to get them started on the East Coast with French cars. It hasn't happened, in case you haven't noticed. But it was always just figuring out a different way to create value. And Traackr just felt right in for this because at the time, late 2000, early 2010s, it just felt like the right time to disrupt marketing, and the whole notion of creators and influencers was just coming about. And look what it is today.
So tell us more. What is Traackr? What problem do you solve?
So Traackr is the equivalent to the marketer of what Salesforce is to the salesperson. So we are the underlying technology that allows our clients, the brands, to build out these marketing programs in collaboration with creators. Over time, what started off as influencer marketing and often misinterpreted as let's get Kim Kardashian to pay attention to my brand has evolved into a collaboration, a true partnership between brands and creators. And what it means is that the brands are getting on the radar of these important creators that have managed to accrue millions or hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands in their following, very much in the same way you do, Steve, and make sure that the authenticity that these creators have been able to build with their audience is rubbed off on the brand, and that trust and that partnership they're able to create allows the brand to become credible in the context of the audience for the creators.
Well, I'm not sure I want Kim Kardashian on this show. You were comparing me to her, but please continue. I'm joking.
And so what it does though is that it allows the brands to be light up these new audiences that they had lost over time because of the new media, but it requires a fundamental rethink on how a company manages their marketing and forces them to look very hard in the mirror in making sure that what the brand stands for resonates with the creators so that it will resonate with the audiences. Nobody likes to hear that their baby's ugly. But very often for brands that have spent decades looking in just being absorbed by the sound of their own voice, creator marketing is very uncomfortable as a first step because it truly forces you to recognize that some of your positioning are not credible, some of your brand values are not resonating, and requires a fundamental rethink on how brands engage with creators. Almost all of our clients today are way past this point on the brand side. And what they do is that we give them ways to measure their success, what works and what doesn't when they engage with creators, give them the tools to activate these creators, and more importantly, to gather a groundswell of data that allows them to think about what's next and where they should carry these partnerships next, and truly power the whole marketing suite through the lens and through the partnerships of creators. So we're the tech behind it. Our clients do all the work. They should get all the glory. And as I often tell some new clients that come on board, just like you would not ask Salesforce to sell on your behalf, you don't ask Traackr to market on your behalf. You still need to do the legwork. We're the tech behind it.
Gotcha. So you when you were talking about your career, you described yourself as a marketing guy who fell into technology, which is probably a good thing because the biggest reason I see technology fails is when it doesn't know how to market. So that is a
I
great
would
one to
venture though
feel.
that we still have the problem of what do you call this in English, like the shoemaker that doesn't that doesn't wear proper shoes. I'm forgetting the right analogy.
Might not translate perfectly, but we get the count.
You get what I'm saying? So I don't know that we are as successful self-marketing as we are enabling others to do it.
Okay.
But I love what I do. I think we're very much in the midst of an amazing transformation of the whole marketing industry and category. And in many ways, that's the same one that made me leave marketing to begin with to get into tech. At the time, I fundamentally struggled with the idea of marketing being the art of persuasion, because it felt like even though it was projected as the art of persuasion, in effect, it was the art of deception. And I couldn't stand that. Like, to me, good marketing is when a brand walks the talk. And today we're finally there.
All right. Well, Pierre, tell us about some current projects you're working on. What kind of cutting edge stuff are you building in your platform?
So, I can give you like the whole AI pitch, just like everybody does probably on your show. And we're no different in that a lot of the projects that we're working on leverage AI technology. The one thing that I would say are quite different about the way we're thinking about this is that, to me, AI is very much what digital used to be 20 plus years ago, where you don't have an AI roadmap, you don't have AI features thing. Is becoming AI, just like 20 years ago, everything was becoming digital.
Yep, that's definitely a fair comparison.
And I used to tell folks back then that they should stop describing themselves as a digital marketer. They said instead just call everybody else an analog marketer. And the same goes here with AI today. So we've been working on the AI tech front and back almost since the inception of Traackr. What has happened much more recently is with Gen AI and all the investment that has gone into computing behind it, it's opened up a lot of possibilities a lot sooner than we would have happened otherwise. So the things that we're working on are replacing humans through automation in any of the simple repetitive tasks through agentic AI, and making sure that we further emphasize the humanity of marketing every place else. So the idea for us is not to replace people with, whether it's marketers or creators, with AI creators or with AI marketers, but rather making sure that instead of people being the small hands behind keyboards, they are the ones building out relationships. Creators with their audiences, so real people with their real audiences, and real marketers with real creators, and have them overextend that part and underemphasize everything else. The other key project that gets me really excited is the amount of analysis and data that we're able to retrieve through the sort of the new sensibility that AI tools and LLMs allow us to. That completely change our ability to report on data and give prescriptive insights to our clients. So there's just a lot that is happening right now that just gets me super, super excited about where the business is going.
Cool. Well, we're a software show. Tell us about your engineering teams.
Sure. We're a remote company. We have people in just about every time zone around the world. And it's particularly true with our engineering team, except for the fact that we've been trying to get our engineers to be within the same time zone-ish. So 90% of our team today is between Ottawa and Buenos Aires, with just about every stop on the way, all within 1 or 2 hours of East Coast time. And the reason for this is that we're a Scrum agile shop, and we want to make sure that our team is able to do live collaborations whenever needed. And we've been doing this for 7-8 years now, and we're able to find talent where it lives, to the extent that they are within these time zones. And yeah, so that's pretty much how we.
Well, I'm definitely a big fan of same time zone resources. That's why I started my company, and that when you're building software, you need your teams collaborating all day, not for an hour where time zones may overlap. Software's too complex. There's too many questions. There's too much to do. And so I'm definitely with you there. And so from a company perspective, you're a fully remote company?
Yep. Yes, we have key locations that are more client facing in New York, San Francisco, LA, Paris, and London. And everybody in the company has a WeWork card. We have the ability to just get together a couple of times a week here in San Francisco. We come to the Salesforce Tower that we work twice a week, and the team gets to meet and exchange. But during COVID, we completely renounced, at the very beginning of COVID, renounced offices. And instead, we've replaced them with a different way of collaborating, which is that we just let people travel wherever they want to travel in order to meet their teammates and solve problems. So we don't do the big thing where everybody meets in Cancun for a week, gets drunk, and does obnoxious things. We don't do that. But if our engineering team is working on something really hard and they need a couple of folks from around the world to help them out, they can decide to meet for a long weekend or a week in Denver or any place else they choose, for as long as it fits the budget. And so the type of face-to-face time that we spend with one another looks very different. It often requires people to get on planes, but it's quite effective. And the rest of the time, people will either work from a WeWork space or home.
Gotcha. So when you're hiring engineers, what are some key traits you look for?
Well, so there are two things that are very specific to us as a company. One, it comes from that remoteness where we need people that are self-starters. We don't know how to task manage, micromanage folks. It would require a completely different setup that we don't have today, nor do I care for it. And so as a result, we want people that if you point to a mountaintop and show them the tools that are available to them, they will know how to get there. And if they have issues, they can raise their hand and the team around them will swarm and help. But short of this, if we don't have folks that are self-motivated, that think like an entrepreneur, we just don't know how to engage them.
You know, way back when, before the pandemic, if you worked from home, it was a privilege because you were a senior team member, you were accomplished, and people knew that you're productive no matter where you are. And then, you know, the pandemic hit, and now there's all these people working remote, and you definitely have to, it's not a right that is earned anymore. And so you definitely have to look at things differently.
That's completely fair. What I will tell our team very often is that flexibility comes with responsibility. And to the extent that, like I said, somebody does their, and I'll use an example in our engineering team. We do 2-week sprints. If you're done with your tickets by day 7 and you decide to sit back and relax, you're the wrong person for us. If you're done with your tickets and look around and either help out some of your teammates that are struggling because they're falling behind, or are prepping for the next sprint because you know that you have a hard sprint coming, then you'd be the right person. So for us, it's really essential to have that drive within you, not something that I know how to teach, but that's something that we know how to qualify for.
Gotcha. Makes
The,
sense.
the second trait that we seek in our team is more specific to Traackr and has to do with the fact that more than half of our team doesn't have English as their first language, nor do they have a background that is similar across the team. So we can't just look at each other and anticipate what one thinks because we all come from different backgrounds. We were watching different TV shows growing up. We have folks that come from Siberia, others from the Philippines, others from the US, others from Mexico, and a lot of expats within that. What it means is that it takes us a minute to be able to relate to one another and to understand each other beyond the words. And so it requires patience and it requires a bit of curiosity as well within our team. So that if Steve says something that I find obnoxious or stupid, if I were to say it,
Hey, I haven't even gone there yet, man. Come on.
it requires me to have a back process in my head that says that's probably not what he means because he's not me. And it requires that level of curiosity that you apply to everything that you do. And it makes ideas and projects a lot more robust. But again, if you don't have that chip, it quickly could become a problem if you're just too quick at judging the people around you. So sort of this curiosity embedded in you and the self-starting demeanor are two essential traits that we're seeking.
So, and how many languages do you speak, Pierre?
Fluently 3, French, English, and Spanish, and I dabble in a couple of others.
And so it's definitely, kind of interesting. And so my company, I have over 100 full-time engineers out of Latin America that are all fluent in English. That's one of the requirements. But sometimes what I've found is when you're hit with a complex challenge or maybe even put on the spot, and English is not your first language, sometimes you may need to think about your response for 10 or 20 seconds and pause, where if you were responding in your native language, you could come off very confident, smooth. But if English is your second, you may need to think a little longer about it. And sometimes, I know our clients are US based, where and in the US, we're pompous. We don't speak multiple languages, which is not right. What's been your experience with this? I'd love to have your perspective.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It can even be worse than this. It can be that because you're not really comfortable in the language, you stay quiet, even though
Yes.
you're the most knowledgeable person on that very topic. So what happens, and for us, like I said, we don't really have that issue because we screen for or sort of against that kind of issues to begin with. But still, in meetings, often you will find people, including myself, that will nudge folks and say, "Hey, Steve, I know you worked on this. Can we give you the form for a minute? It's okay. Just take the time to find your words. You're more comfortable writing them? Write them. It's okay. But we just need to make that space. And when we're too quick at judging and at reaching conclusions, we would end up with the wrong ideas and the wrong decisions simply because the loudest person is the one that will sort of drive a decision. And same goes, by the way, for other stuff, such as the way we manage compensation for us. There are some cultures where it's extremely rude to advocate for yourself, and others, like in the US, where it's expected. But it's not because it's expected for an American to make their own case on comp that they should get paid more than somebody who equally deserves it in Peru, as an example. And so for us, we just need to create process and space to make sure that these things don't happen.
So you have a very multicultural approach and patience with that, which is phenomenal. How do you deal when you have clients that maybe don't have that level of patience and are used to everybody only speaking English?
Well, luckily for us, because of the clients that we serve, which are mostly global consumer brands, our diversity is actually much more of an asset than a liability.
Okay.
We have the ability to put customer-facing folks in the US who are American-born and speak English as their first language. But we also have the ability to put Chinese people in front of Chinese customers, or Korean customer-facing in front of Korean customers, where we take on ourselves the challenge of translating their needs into what it means rather than us scratching our head and say, just left a meeting with this Japanese team. I have no idea what it is they want.
Gotcha. So you're putting the right people at the right place to match to the client. Love it.
Exactly.
So, Pierre, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing now as we're I say headed, geez, we're now deep into the second half of 2025. What are some of the biggest challenges on your plate?
My main challenge right now, and it touches very much on the tech side, there's so much noise in the AI space
Yes, there is.
that I find ourselves, and particularly our front office, having to block and tackle some of the claims and potential partnerships and whatnot, just spend a tremendous amount of time debunking myths rather than just doing the legwork. And I know it still needs to happen. And the thing that I want to make sure comes across in this context is that I'm, as far as possible, from an AI skeptic, I'm actually extremely bullish on all the possibilities, but I'm also recognizing that our clients have needs that need to be served today, not 5 years from today. And for us to make claims on things that, yeah, they look great in a demo, but can I do this for all my clients all the time? Probably not. So just figuring out how to thread that needle to continue the sort of the innovation engine going around AI, and at the same time having my feet just grounded in soil to make sure that everything we do has a purpose, serves business needs, and we're able to deliver are really critical. It took me a while, maybe the first half of this year, to acquire sort of a sixth sense on how to assess all of these AI companies that pop up left and right. Because frankly, if something has already been developed and figured out by someone else, I don't want us to spend time reinventing the wheel, much rather engaging. But that space to figure out how real is this and assessing it quickly so that we don't waste cycles has been a bit of a challenge for me. And I think I'm finally turning the corner on this. But
it's been a
an
challenge
issue
for everyone. The past 18 to 24 months, it's been really hard to decipher hype versus with what's real. And was these wild expectations that AI is going to replace everything, everyone, that engineers won't be needed, all this stuff. And now I think and OpenAI, and I'm a big fan of ChatGPT, but they made such a big deal about ChatGPT-5, and it's horrible. I mean, and the reality is AI is proven to be great for productivity, for helping, even, making sure too, the more routine tasks or the more junior roles or things are things that AI can dramatically speed up, but it still needs that human expertise to guide it and make sure it's going the right way. By the time this episode publishes, there'll be 15 different releases of new things that'll have great claims, but I think the reality is starting to sit in of what it is and what it isn't. And it's still amazing. No doubt about that. But I feel like there's a realization starting to set in.
Yes, not fast enough as far as I'm concerned, but I agree with you that it's settling in. I think it was Gartner who last year pronounced that we're edging on a cliff on AI funding, and that there was going to be a huge drop off, as it happened in the digital space 20 years ago. Hasn't happened yet. You still have valuations that are completely hyped by AI related things. And again, some of it is legit. And I've met some businesses that are doing amazing things, that are highly innovative, and where they have a genuine competitive advantage, a moat that they've been able to build. But 90% of them, they're just building stuff on top of LLMs with, I'm not exactly sure what it is that they do, because they don't own the data, they don't own the models, but they've been able to connect these things in a way that is a great hack. But what's the value of this? That's been my challenge, is just canceling that noise and making sure that our team stays focused on developing things that are actual value add for our clients and for the market.
So Pierre, as a guy who is a marketing expert, technology, been founder of multiple companies, what are some brutal lessons you wish you would have learned earlier in your career?
I'd say the main one probably is that there's absolutely no value in a good idea. Zero. And what I mean by this is that I was under the impression when I first started this business that our smarts were, and what we came up with were going to set us apart. But the reality is that none of it replaces the grind and the amount of work that needs to go into the execution.
And
And
I
I can't
was
remember.
waiting for that part. I was
Yeah.
trying to be patient too.
Who was it? Was it Edison that said, 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration? I would do like a 1%, 99%. The reality is that if you have good execution and the seed of an idea that is worthwhile, then you have a shot at being successful. It still takes a little bit of luck, but it took us so much time and efforts to get to where we are today that it cannot be understated. So to me, the value of execution is the thing that I wish I had focused on a lot sooner, and it would have helped us in the early years.
You look at famous stories like how McDonald's started with Ray Kroc. It wasn't his idea. He knew how to
Mhm.
execute.
Yeah.
There's a well-known ice cream place called Cold Stone Brewery that was started by one of the founders was the previous governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey. And he
Yeah.
was at an ice cream shop in a small town and saw they were pounded on a marble. And these people are very big on it. Wasn't their idea,
Yeah.
but they knew how to execute. The
Yeah.
power of execution
Yeah.
is everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so to me, that's the main lesson. And the fact that as a founder, there's nowhere around working your ass off. It's just you have to gear up and be ready for this. And that's the guidance that I offer new entrepreneurs today. It's just nothing replaces the hard work. And frankly, even though it's not the consequences aren't as stark if it's not your own business, your own company, I would say the same with our clients, where often when they try to oversimplify the work,
Mhm.
it leads in all the wrong directions. And they do this with the necessity that they see of scaling whatever practice that they're trying to do. But just being able to embrace complexity and the hard work that comes with it is definitely an asset.
Awesome. I love it. Pierre, thank you so much for getting uncensored with us today. You
Yeah, of
shared some great
course. It was fun.
stories. Love your marketing to technology background, the scars you've earned from being a founder. I love it. Thank you for sharing these stories. Before we wrap, give one final no BS advice for leaders out there today who are trying to build, scale, or just survive in these crazy times.
The one piece of advice that I would give is that when people talk about pivoting, it's okay in my book to pivot many times over on the methods on how you get to your destination, but you don't pivot on your destination. You have to be very crisp on the why. Why is it that you're doing this? And what's at the center of what you're trying to build? And for as long as you have your true north, everything else around it can change. The people can change, the ideas can change, the methods can change, the businesses can change, but you don't compromise on the why. And what makes special businesses special is those that have had this true north from the get-go and have been able to figure out many different ways to getting there. So the power of one's own conviction on why is it that they're building the business they're building is key.
I love it. Pierre, thank you so much. Great advice. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you like the show, go ahead and hit subscribe. If you didn't like it, well, you can kiss my butt and Pierre's butt. We're just going to tell your competitors about it. They could probably use the help. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time. That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatify Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.